All right. Again, like I said, hope everyone had a great break. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to switch over my screen quickly. If I can find my materials I want to share. I'm going to exit out again. Bear with me just a minute. Well, I'm all kinds of messed up here this evening. I had too many windows open.
I always have like 1,000 tabs open.
I should have known better to do that, because when you try to share a screen on Zoom, and if you have a lot of windows open, it creates a problem for you. So I should know better to do that. So
I get teased so much for it, but I'm like, I need that sometimes.
yeah. Hey, we're going to go ahead. I want to share there's two PowerPoints. So I just want to kind of clarify something. I got off track there on my syllabus as far as the dates. So technically this is week 6. Last week, I had it listed as week 6. We was off the full week. So technically this is week 6. I just kind of want to bring you up to date there and make sure we're all good on that. So this will be week 6. It's November 28th through December the 4th. So the way that's laid out, really, you won't have anything due this week. I just want to clarify that. The next week, the following week on Sunday, that CBM report will be due. So I just want to make sure we're all good and clear and avoid any confusion on that. So again, that's on me, and I just totally messed up, but I want to make sure kind of clarify that for you. So that following week, the week of December 5th through the 11th, is when the CBM report's due on that Sunday. That last week, which is what we call finals week, or it's week number 8, starts on Monday the 12th and ends on Friday the 16th. And technically that 16th is when that portfolio will be due. So I just want to make sure we're all good on that. Everyone kind of understands. If you finish that CBM before that due date, want to submit it, that's fine and great. You're welcome to do that. It's not a have to deal. So, and again, as we're kind of, before I go over this PowerPoint too, I want to mention and just kind of reflect back to the beginning and remind you or encourage you to perhaps go ahead and start pulling up some of those lesson plan templates and start creating that for that informal and in the normed reference, because really that is what will be uploaded into that portfolio or that final assignment. If you remember, I mentioned you'll have 3 of those lesson plans, one for your informal, one for your norm reference, and then one for the CBM. And then you'll upload, the mock IEP video. And that's what makes up it's a mini portfolio is what it is, but that's what makes up that portfolio assignment, which is considered the final. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone's good and we're up to date on that. Does anyone have any questions over those dates that I clarified? I just want to make sure we're all good to avoid any confusion. So everyone good? Okay, so if you look at week 6 in the course shell, there's really 2 PowerPoints in there. One of them I felt like is almost a repeat of the one I went over right before the break. So I really don't want to go over it again. It's there if you want to look at it, but I did want to share this one with you. And again, it's week 6 is really focusing more on some formal assessments. And this week, this particular slide is focusing on chapter 10, looking at intelligence and adaptive behavior. So basically looking at some intelligence testing or screenings, and then also what we call adaptive behaviors scales. And you've heard me mention that a lot of times when we come in to do testing, more of the formal testing, like if I was to go in and do assessments on students for their initial placement to see if they qualify, or if I was going to do reevals, a lot of times we ask teachers to provide additional data, and we collect that from the adaptive behavior scales. A lot of times one goes to the parent, and then also one will be presented to a classroom teacher that the student has, perhaps that regular classroom teacher or another teacher. And it's a lot of questions regarding just social adaptability of that student in different settings you go through. And then I take it on my end as a psychometrist and score that and incorporate that into a lot of the background information in the report. So it gives us a little bit of a different look. So that's what the adaptive behaviors do. So looking at that intelligence and adaptive behaviors, basically the term intelligence is just a general concept of a student or an individual's ability. A lot of times on the psychometric or school psychologist side, we may be called in to even work with adults in particular settings. If they're in some programs after they get out of high school, maybe they're in programs as adults, transitional programs through vocational rehabilitation. They may call us in to do some additional testing, and it could encompass that. So basically, we're looking at their ability to function in various settings, and it's assessed by intelligence test. The WJ4, you hear me comment about that a lot, the Woodcock-Johnson version 4. It will give us a GIA score, General Intellectual Ability Score, which is very similar. So, and then we talk about the adaptive behaviors, the scales, ratings, and that's literally some ratings or assessments on that individual's ability to function in different environments, maybe social settings, out in public, at home, how they behave and perform and do different tasks at home with a parent, and also the teachers rating them on how they're able to their social skills and how they adapt to different school setting environments as well. And it provides us a lot. Some of those adaptive behavior scales and ratings are very lengthy. One of them I'll point out, it mentions here, it's the Vinland. I use that a lot, and it's very detailed. It may be, the protocol on it might be upward of 15 pages full of questions. So the meaning of intelligence testing. Now, I kind of want to cover this because a lot of times it's always a topic of interest, and individuals kind of want to know a little bit more about it. So basically, when we're looking at intelligence testing, it's reported in the form of a standard intelligence quotient, or IQ, usually with a mean of 100. So you can see kind of the formula that's used. So IQ is equivalent to the mental age, you can see here, divided by chronological age, and then times 100. And that's kind of the basic formula that's used to come up with that IQ score on that. So I just want to make and share that with you. What does IQ mean? So you can see here listed on this screen, the myth is IQ scores are measurements of potential that is innate in a person. So IQ necessarily does not measure ability. Intelligence testing is simply a way that a student responds to a set of stimuli at a specific point in time. Okay, so it provides a little bit of clarification there. IQ testing, been a lot of debate over the years, been different theories based on particular tests, based on influence of their use and how they're interpreted. Also, we have to take into account, are they free of ethnic, cultural, and linguistic biases? Issues with it include using IQ as an indicator for special education. Okay, it's not a single factor that's used to determine whether an individual qualifies for special education services. Okay, it's also issues are related to learned behaviors. Then we have innate potential, basically the thought to be one's ability from birth. Environmental influences, the impact of the environment on the student's learning ability. And then acculturation, basically the influence of one's culture on another culture. So those are some things, issues that are included when we look at IQ testing. So here we are, have additional issues. So issues with IQ testing as far as test creation, content validity, the construct validity, how it's constructed, predictive validity, and then also the mean differences that are obtained by different groups. Then we get into socioeconomic groups, cultural groups, biases that come with that, inappropriate content, Could be inappropriate standardization samples, examiner language bias. Examiner meaning me, the person that comes in and does the test. Inequitable social consequences, measurement of different constructs, differential predictive validity, and then qualitatively distinct minority and majority aptitude and personality. Those terms are getting really in depth. I just kind of wanted to share that with you and give you a broad overview. You would really, if you were in a program that was focusing on skill sets to become a psychometrist or school psychologist, you're going to really dive into a lot of that and learn more about it. But I just kind of wanted to introduce you to it and make you aware of it. Here we are, a slide talking about different uses of intelligence testing. IQ tests remain very controversial at times because of inappropriate uses from the past. There have been significant improvements made. IQ testing is also likely to remain a part of the assessment process because what is assessed by IQ tests correlates to school performance. So I mentioned, you heard me talk about general intellectual ability, the GIA score. And that is taken, and then that is also compared to their standard scores to determine their overall ability and how much discrepancies we have in each subtest. That gives us a good indicator. If there's a significant discrepancy, then something we've got to look at. It's telling us that we've got some problems there with the student does with their academic abilities. Also, the promotion of fair and appropriate use of the test, using it for its appropriate intentions. Skip over that one. Here are just a few different tests that are used for IQ or GIA. Is the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children, 5th version, the WISC-5. You've heard me mention that just in conversation since classes started. Assesses global intellectual ability and processing abilities, provides full scale IQ. The mean score is 100 and standard deviations on that are 15. Okay. That's one. Other intelligence tests that are used, you'll see, is the Kaufman Assessment Battery for Children, the Stanford Binet 5, the Woodcock-Johnson 4, WJ4. Heard me talk a lot about that. That's one that I prefer to use a lot. And then also the KBI or Kaufman Brief Intelligence Test. You hear the acronym KBI used a lot for that. Some nonverbal intelligence tests that are used. You can see there are some here listed. The Wechsler nonverbal, differential ability scales, universal nonverbal tests. So if you have some that are nonverbal, depending on age, those are some different assessments that can be used. Then we get into talking about adaptive behavior skills, kind of shifting gears here. Again, I kind of explained that briefly. This is what we're getting an idea or a picture of the student's ability to adapt in their environment. Also must be considered when we're looking for intellectual disabilities with the student as well, see how they adapt to their environment. One thing, they're designed to answer a person's familiarity, how familiar they are with functioning in the everyday world. Has everyone seen an adaptive behavior scale? Reginald, have Amy? So you kind of have an idea. It just asks a lot of very basic questions about everyday functions, whether it's in a social setting or in a more formalized setting. So you guys pretty much, you have an idea what we're talking about here. So, and the questions on there, basically it's going to elicit information about that student's independent functioning. How independent are they in and out of school settings? And it also will kind of measure their self-reliance. How independent are they? And then also their daily living skills, not only at home, but how they function out in the community as well. Kind of want to jump forward to some common These are three very common adaptive behavior scales. I don't know which one, if any of these three are used in your district. They are very common. The first one listed is one that I prefer to use. I think it's very comprehensive. It's the Vinland Adaptive Behavior Scales. It's very lengthy. As I mentioned, the protocol is upward of about probably 12 to 15 pages, questions. Then you have the Adaptive Behavior School Second Edition, or the AAMR, and then the third one is the Adaptive Behavior Assessment System. So I don't know if any of those three sound familiar to you, or if you've seen them, but those probably are three of the more common and preferred adaptive behavior skills that are used. So I just kind of want to go through that quickly and give you a brief overview on that. So you want to have any questions on that? On the scales, if you've had any experience with it, or any comments, questions?
I helped my psych answer some of those questions. Is that also a test that I think she sent one home with the parents that asked very similar questions on what they're capable of doing
Yeah,
now?
there's two versions. So very good point, Reginald. So there's two versions. One is the teacher, what we call it. I'm just going to call it the teacher version, or the teacher form. And then there's another form that's for the parent / caregiver, is what it says. So it'll have two different headings on that, just for the Vinland, or if it's another one. But yeah, there'll be two different ones. And so they literally go through there, and a lot of times they'll ask them to rate them like on a scale of 1 to 5, based on, from strong skill set to weak skill set. And they go through there and circle. Then that's all brought in, and then I take those and I go and enter all that data, manually enter it into my scoring system, and it'll run a very detailed, comprehensive report just on the adaptive behaviors. And then I'll pull that and take it over and put it in my comprehensive report as well. So yeah, exactly. And so, like I said, some of them are very lengthy. Any other questions related to adaptive behavior skills? No? Okay, so now let's get into quickly and talk a little bit about CBM. See how you guys are coming along on that. With your data points, if you're able to connect with your student, able to work with he or she to get your data points to put into the report, and also predict possibly the outcome of that if you were to continue using that over a longer period of time. So I'll just kind of open it up for a little bit of discussion or questions on that I might be able to answer or help you with.
I did have a question.
Okay.
With my student, I actually do CBMs with him on a regular basis.
Yep.
Would it be okay if I took data from, like, say, August or September,
You
as
can,
long as I've got the data?
if you got the data and you've already done some, yeah, definitely save you some time.
He's been sporadically absent the last couple of weeks, and it's been hard to get reliable data right now. He's not
Yeah.
feeling well, and I know that's affecting my data I'm getting right
Sure,
now.
if you got some where you've got upward of at least 6 data points from earlier in the year where you were doing them, whether, and I don't know if it was in the area of reading or math or what it was, but yeah, you can do that, especially if his attendance has been very sporadic right now. And I understand if it is. I mean, you got a lot of schools are getting ill with flu and everything else, so it's a problem. So yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
Sorry. For mine, so he's not in my MTSS group. So like, just like when you look at my graph, it says that another teacher gave it, but I was just making sure that it's okay because I'm using FastBridge and it has that his teacher was a different one, but I gave it. It's just, that's the only way I could give it because I'm not a specialist view on it.
Right. It's under that teacher's name, probably that has some credentials
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah. No, I understand. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure because
Yeah.
we finished up last week, and when I was putting the data points in, it kept saying her name, and I wanted to, because I tried to change it to my name, but it wouldn't let me.
No, it won't let you in that software if it's assigned to that individual with the credentials. And depending on if you're working with the school psych or psychometrist or whoever you're working with that is a qualified examiner for those particular assessments, if they're assigned to that in that software and you're pulling those charts and utilizing them, you won't be able to change the name on that.
And then my other question was, so we just opened up for our winter data. And so when it like on our graphing points, it shows, because we've been testing him recently a lot more so that we can use them for winter also.
Yeah.
It won't show all of our data points due to that, she said. And she's not sure exactly how to go back and look for like the other data points. Because I asked our psychologist too, like, so it's on one of my graphs, it shows like 2 of them. Is that okay? Because we have it up until then. It's just with our winter number opening, it
Yeah.
won't show it.
You could do that, or
Okay.
it might take a few minutes to do this. And I don't know how comfortable you are with working with charts and graphs in, like, say, PowerPoint.
Mhm.
You could set you up a graph that's very similar to the one in the
Okay.
software you're using, and just enter your previous data points and the ones you have now for this.
Yeah, I have them all written down. I just,
Yeah,
I have
you
them
can
all
just
written down from like,
create that chart in like PowerPoint. I'm just going to use that
Okay.
example. It doesn't have to be, but that way you'll have them all right there, and it'll show your line.
okay, yeah, because I have it showing what it would look like for him in the winter, which I'll keep that one on there.
Yeah.
Then, and even in the spring, it's just the ones before that, it won't show it anymore. And
Okay.
she
Yeah.
can't get it to come up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
So I'm starting to think I probably have been doing this wrong. Does the CBM have to be like something from like FastBridge? So it can be something that like we've made?
Yeah, you can.
Okay,
do it
good.
there.
Okay.
You can even, I referenced a website, I think early on in the class, where you can go, and it provides a lot of them for you.
Yeah.
You can pull them
Okay, I just
reading math. Yeah, I know
perfect.
that
Right.
their district happens to be using certain programs
Yeah.
is accessible for them, but that's not a requirement that you have to use that.
Okay, cool. Because we don't do that in preschool. So I was like,
Oh, no,
that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the things that like Alexis talking about may not be applicable to preschool. So yeah, there's other things you can do. easycbm.com is a website you can go on, and it's got a wide range of various grade levels in various areas too as well. And it has a lot of resources. So
yeah. Okay, because I've been doing like my own. I just, after hearing a couple people say that, I was like, oh, I don't
no.
think I'm doing it right. Okay.
It will vary based on your students' grade level and age.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So looking at that, make sure we want to talk a little bit about and if you have trouble as you're putting your data in these charts, we'll have enough time, even if you run into a problem, that we can discuss it next week, even on Wednesday, and still have time for you to make some adjustments. But also make sure you got to think about, you need to show your baseline, which is your very basic beginning, kind of where you started. Identify your baseline, and then as you go, make sure you create an aim line on there as well, and can display that. So, okay. And with these data points and collecting this will give you a pretty good indicator of kind of the direction they're going. You hope it's an upward progression on your chart. If it's not, and it's this level, or it's declining, you know that the information or materials you're using is above their level for sure, without a doubt. So, any other questions related or centered around CBM? Okay, so let's take just a few minutes if we can. I want to kind of move forward a little bit, because it's going to be up on us before we know it. The next few weeks really move fast as you get into this time of the year, getting close to the holidays, into your semester. So kind of want to spend a few minutes on the final assignment, which will be due that very following week after you turn in that CBM. I mean, you're no more going to submit that, and then that following week on Friday, that portfolio's due. So I just want to spend a few minutes on that, see if you guys have any questions related to it. So basically, again, The portfolio is a mini portfolio. It's nothing like the comprehensive you have to do as you get to the end of this program. So basically in that, you're going to have 3 lesson plans using the template that's in the SPED 805 resources section in Blackboard. There's a template form in there for you. You're going to create that lesson plan, going back and using your information that you collected for the informal assessment. Then you're going to do another lesson plan form for the normed reference. And then you're going to do one also for the CBM. Okay. That's what you're going to upload into that portfolio template. You also create the introduction, 4 to 6 sentences. It doesn't have to be anything long and lengthy, but just giving kind of an overview of what the portfolio entails, what the content is. And then you'll create the conclusion section. Again, 4 to 6 sentences, just kind of concluding the portfolio. The bulk of it, of that assignment, is the mock IEP. Okay. For that mock IEP, guys, you can literally do that at school on your planning period in your classroom. You can do it at home. If you have a home office, your kitchen table, however you want to do it. And you're going to conduct that meeting as if the full team was there. Okay. You're going to just pretend that IEP team is sitting there with you. The main thing is when you open it up, you're going to introduce the team members. I know they're not there with you. You know that, but it's just getting you into the habit of acknowledging them. And this is kind of a practice run for you. So when you actually do them, you kind of used to it and know it's expected.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
If you've done, say, 24 real IEP meetings already,
Yeah.
is this still a requirement?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay. And I understand you've already done a lot of it. Yeah, it is for this. Yeah, it is for the course. Okay. So it counts as a lot of points on that.
Okay.
So this is literally all you're doing. It's not necessarily identical to an IEP meeting that you've conducted. Literally all you're doing, this meeting is you're presenting the data that you have collected during this 8-week course. You're presenting information collected from the informal, the norm referenced, and the CBM. And then you're going to highlight strengths and weaknesses. One thing you're going to do on there is make sure that you present charts, graphs, and tables. Some visualization of the data. As I mentioned to you, Amy, and you'll know this from being in IEP meetings, especially if it's a MEGS meeting. Those parents, a lot of times, we can give them all this data and all this information, but until they see it somehow and are able to visualize it, it's in one ear and out the other one. It can be overwhelming to them, okay? Depending on your comfort level using Zoom or Google Meets or whatever platform you want to do to record this, you can use your existing charts and tables that you've created for your reports that you've already submitted to me in the informal, the norm reference, and all that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use those same charts. And you can have them popped up and do a screen share as you're doing your IEP meeting, if you choose to do that. If you're not comfortable doing that, doing a screen share, I always tell them to hold that chart table and graph up and refer to that while they're presenting the information. They can do it just like this. That makes sense? Either way is acceptable, just as long as I can see that you are showing some visual representation of the data that you're presenting, whether you're holding it up and pointing to it, or you're doing a screen share as you are doing the meeting. Okay. Either way. That has a recommended time of 12, no longer than 15 minutes. Next week, I will talk a little bit more about it to make sure kind of we're on the same page about it, I will share the outline with you. The outline's in the syllabus. If you literally, and I always recommend this to the classes, if you kind of lay the outline in front of you as you are doing the IEP meeting, and you just kind of glance down and make sure you're following that outline and make sure you cover everything, you're gonna hit every point needed to be successful on that. Okay, such as introducing the team, going right in and presenting the data. That's going to be right off the bat after you do your introductions of your team members. You're going to jump right into it and start sharing the data that you collected on the informal, the norm reference, and the CBM, and kind of explain and then go right into Johnny or Susie's strengths and weaknesses that you identified through the assessments. And then you're going to roll right into what you as the resource teacher expect from the parents as far as how they can contribute and support the goals that you're going to set. You're going to basically set a couple short-term and a couple long-term goals in that meeting as well. You already have them, and you'll share those with the parent in this mock video. Okay.
Dr. Posey, I do have a question about that.
Yeah.
Could you give an example of like a short-term versus a long-term goal? Because ours are always written for a whole
Yeah.
year.
So what I always tell our classes on this for this particular assignment, I always say, look, on the short-term goal, we're thinking of a minimum of 9 weeks on the short term for this particular assignment. Okay.
So let
Not
me ask,
necessarily on your IEP meeting that you do normally. For this particular assignment, a short-term goal, we're looking at 9 weeks that you kind of want to gauge it. 9 weeks, come back and evaluate it. And then the long-term is a year down the road.
ours are split into 4 benchmarks. We have
Yeah.
the year goal, but there's also a benchmark every 9 weeks
Yep.
that we set. So could I use like, say, I've actually got this particular child I'm using has 6 goals that
Yeah.
I've set. Could I use 2 of them in the long-term IEP form? And then maybe 2 of them choose the shorter benchmark goal that I had set?
You sure can.
Okay.
And what I always recommend on the short-term SMART goal that it talks about for you to establish is set it for 9 weeks. Just something that you can gauge after implementing your recommendations as far as any type of modification or what you're proposing to do based on your identified strengths and weaknesses. And then the 2 long-term goals, a year down the road, we're going to come back and we're going to reassess everything and look and see what Johnny or Susie's been able to do over the course of the year. Now that we've identified these strengths and weaknesses, we made the adjustments and we've provided this service. Okay. So short term, we're thinking 9 weeks, long term, looking at a year. Okay. Any other questions on that? Amy, if you've done about 24 here lately, this will be a piece of cake for you.
Oh, well, it's just, I feel weird doing it after doing it for so long.
Oh, I know. You probably can do it in your sleep. Anything else? Again, I will pull that up, do a screen share on that outline next week, dive into it a little bit more. I just kind of wanted to go over some of the basics of that, just so you can start thinking a little bit ahead, but also not just throw too much out there on you at this time. I know you got to first things first and you get the CBM knocked out, but it'll be on us quick. It'll be a quick turnaround. If you have a little bit of spare time and you can work it in, you might think about going ahead and trying to knock those lesson plans out if you can. That way it'll be one less thing to knock out, because as I mentioned, that's a quick turnaround. You submit that CBM on a Sunday night, and then that final is due on that Friday, and then trying to work that mock video in that week. So does everyone feel good about, I don't know what your preferred platform is, whether you're going to use Zoom, Google Meets, or other ones out there. So is everyone feel okay about what platform they're going to use as far as how to operate that, to do that recording? No problems there.
Zoom is actually really easy.
It is very easy. I always kind of encourage them to use Zoom because it's very easy. It's easy to, I mentioned doing the screen share to pop up your charts on that, and it will kind of have you, your screen minimized as you're presenting, and everything's popped up there on the screen, and you're just recording it, and then you just download that file. And I will tell you this, just a little bit of an FYI to think about, okay? Never fails, this comes up. So I just want to share it with you and maybe avoid some frustration, stress. We have noticed throughout, I've noticed it the last couple of years, when they go to download their video, depending on how they do it, sometimes when they go to submit it and they upload it into Blackboard, depending on what platform they've used and also what browser they are using, sometimes it will literally hang up in Blackboard. And so it shows that it's uploading and literally it's just sitting there. You can see a wheel spinning, but it never does completely upload. It just shows like it's in progress. And it creates a lot of frustration for the students. So what I've recommended is, number one, that happens a lot if you use Internet Explorer or Mozilla. Very seldom do we see it happen with Chrome. Okay, so think about that. Another thing to help condense that file is I always recommend to them, if you feel comfortable using YouTube, download the Zoom link over into YouTube and just create that link, copy the link over and drop it in Blackboard. And it'll take me right to your YouTube. Works every time. When you do that, guys, make sure in that setting as you're creating that YouTube link that you make that public. A lot of times they'll forget and keep it private. So when they drop the link over in Blackboard and I go to grade and I go to access it, it won't let me access it. It'll say it's private. A lot of times I'll have to email you and say, hey, I need you to go in there and change that setting. It won't let me access it. So just if you choose to do that, keep that in mind, okay?
Can we put all of it into one PowerPoint?
The mock IEP?
Like all of it, the whole portfolio? Can you make it into one PowerPoint?
You can and upload it in there. You just need to make sure you keep your sections separated.
Like with separated pages?
Introduction, lesson plan, informal, norm reference, CBM, and then down there at the bottom, put your YouTube link. Now, I've
Can you
seen them.
embed the video in it, or
Huh?
can we just put like the video onto a
Can.
slide?
I've had students do that before.
Okay.
Yeah, using
I
PowerPoint.
just think it would be easier just,
I've seen it done multiple ways. There's multiple ways to do it. And I've seen them do it just like what Amy's saying, where they do it all through PowerPoint and upload it. Yeah, that way. So if you don't feel comfortable using PowerPoint, you want to stick to that portfolio template, add them in there, and then whatever's easier for you. Just as long as you're covering all that content, okay? Again, I'll revisit that next week, touch base with you on it, refresh everyone's memory and taking questions. I just kind of wanted to throw those things out there so you can start thinking about them. Okay, be busy next couple of weeks because it'll move fast. Any other questions? We get close to the end of our time.
I would like to speak with you after.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt. No problem. I will stop the record if there's not any other questions. And yeah, definitely. Anything else? If not, remember, you don't have anything to do this Sunday. The CBM's due the following week on December the 11th. Okay. All right. You guys have a good evening. Thank you. I'm going to stop.